Okay. Hi. Um, if you don't know who I am, I'm Chris. I publish a weekly email newsletter called Switch Weekly, and I've just sent the latest issue, which is the first I've sent since the kind of like Switch 2 reveal. So I thought I'd just kind of go through the trailer again, really, and just kind of offer my thoughts on it because oh, I've just accidentally hit a wrong button on my Stream Deck. Let's try that again. Yeah, just thought I'd go through it and see what's what. So if I've set this up correctly, we should have the video here. But yeah, just to kind of go back to what we're doing. There we go. Yeah, just hit send on this. This is the latest issue of Switch Weekly. And yeah, excuse my lame photo of me popping out from behind the curtain. I was just kind of riffing off the Mario kind of reveal for the Switch back in 2016. So yeah, lots and lots of hot takes in this week's issue in terms of what people think about the Switch 2 reveal. Kind of a mixed response, I think, in terms of the immediate kind of feelings towards it, but there's lots here of like, oh, it's kind of what we expected it to be. If it's the end of like innovative or quirky Nintendo, then that's a bit sad. But plenty of other people kind of just saying, it's fine, shut up, we don't even know half the details yet. So that's just kind of where we're at in terms of the reveal. So yeah, loads of links to read through there. So if you're not subscribed, I'd consider hitting it up. Anyway, we're here to look at this video. So hi Roebuck, thanks for dropping in. Yeah, let's find this video and watch it. I'm gonna have to try and get the levels right on the audio actually, because last time I did this, the video was blasting. And put it around there. So it's interesting that the kind of Switch 2 reveal, the very first shot of it is the Switch 1. I thought that was kind of interesting, but hey. But the way they've kind of gone about it is quite interesting, because obviously they start off with this original Switch and then immediately, oh look, it's bigger. So they're kind of going through the steps of it kind of like transforming into the new model here. I kind of like this shot where it's kind of getting shaved. It's satisfying. And USB-C confirmed. Now, on here we're seeing the new kind of buttons across the top of the Switch, and obviously power button, volume button. But what is... Can I control this in a like a fine-tuned way? Let's see if I can figure it out. I do like the way these holes kind of appear on the machine though. It's kind of satisfying. Yeah, what is this thing here? Obviously volume rockers and whatnot. But what's this thing next to it? This on the right here. Like, what is that? It looks like some sort of sensor for me, like some sort of light sensor. I'm not sure, but yeah, I know you can't see my mouse. Actually, I need to look into how to show my pointer. I wonder if I can figure that out. It's for another time. Settings, appearance, output. You're not here to watch me look through my settings, so we'll come back to that. Yeah, I just think that might be some sort of like sensor to like pick up like the ambient light, maybe. I'm not sure. I thought that was interesting though. And then we move along to see that, yay, there's a USB-C port on the top as well, which is really handy. One of the things I did not like about the original Switch was that you couldn't charge it while playing it in like kickstand mode or anything like that. Or, the cable kind of got in your own way. Like if you were trying to play it, like, I don't know, in a certain configuration, the cable would often kind of get in the way. There's also some kind of thinking here, isn't there, in terms of like the fact that it's got two USB-C ports now means like that you can charge it and also use an accessory plugged into it at the same time. So there's some speculation like it might be a camera, or it opens up the kind of ways in which this can be used in some kind of interesting way. So that's kind of nice to see that they're putting two on there. And of course we saw the 3.5mm headphone jack is still there. New kickstand, and it's weird actually because like this is obviously inherently better than the one that shipped with the original Switch, but it also looks like a little bit of a downgrade from the one that was on the OLED, because the OLED one ran the whole length across it. But you know what? This looks cheaper, so it's far less plastic. But hey, maybe it does the same job, so that's fine. Just not as sturdy, maybe. And then we get to the transformation of the Joy-Con themselves, and they look, notably larger, actually. I mean, if you look at that as a comparison, that's pretty decent. I mean, I don't know, it looks the same size of my iPhone, basically, doesn't it? I mean, in terms of maybe a bit smaller. I don't know. But yeah, they look better, easier to hold. That's one of the gripes many people had, isn't it, with the kind of like original like Joy-Con, is that they were just a bit too small, especially if you're holding it in like the kind of two-player kind of co-op mode. They weren't great for that. So yeah, nice. And it's interesting as well because like when I got the original kind of grey launch Nintendo Switch, I actually regretted getting that because on reflection, I thought the neon version looked so much cooler. So this is kind of like a bit of a weird halfway house between the two. I mean, I assume there'll be other colors at launch, but this kind of has that signature red and blue pop of color that the Switch kind of has been known for, but knocks it back a bit and hues it down a bit. And then we get this kind of new extended bar, which will make those SL and SR buttons much easier to press because they were awful on the original Switch. They were tiny little nubbins of buttons, so didn't like that. This looks great, though, in terms of what we've got. And also curious to see on the bottom of these kind of extrusions, I guess is what you'd call them, is, well, we can kind of see here, there's a sync button, there's the SLSR, then we've got kind of two bits at either end. I don't know if that's some sort of like magnet connection bit. And also there's like the obviously you can't see what I'm pointing at, but the bit on the left there with the kind of circle inside of it, I assume that's some sort of like, you've got the button at the back. You can see this kind of new button at the back here. I think when you trigger that, it'll press that little circle out and it'll kind of push the Joy-Con out from and kind of detach the magnet. And you can also see here the kind of optical sensor is what it's been kind of suggested as anyway. And then we kind of go into more of a, it's very kind of iPhone product reveal to me, this, and very kind of like typical. It doesn't feel, it's so wildly different from the past two reveals they've done, because obviously the Wii U one was bad. I mean, I watched both of them back this week actually. So there's if you go on the channel and click over to the live, there's two VODs there that you can check out. One of them looking back at the Wii U, which I thought was generally, obviously with hindsight, it's easy to say it's horrendous, but also there's the Switch reveal, which I think did actually a really, really good job of kind of establishing what the Switch is and selling people on the concept. I guess what you could say now is obviously this reveal is a much more kind of safe kind of, here's the hardware, what a Switch is. So I guess the kind of caveat is that they don't need to kind of sell you on the concept because 150 million people plus know what this thing is. So they don't have to go so kind of hard with selling you on the Switch as a concept because we kind of understand it. So this time they can just kind of show off, yeah, this is the machine, I guess, is my kind of cope rationale for being what it is. Very bold there. Did you see that? Did you see what they just did? I'll just show you again if you missed it. All right, look at this, right? That is a Joy-Con stick spinning around loads. No drift there, man. I mean, I'm being cynical, but would they have this shot in the trailer if the stick drift wasn't fixed? Would they have the confidence to show that full rotation, no problem? I'm being cynical, of course, but it did strike me as amusing that, oh look, there's the stick going for it. I don't know. It's got to be Hall effect, right? I mean, they haven't announced anything, but it just has to be. You can't have another stick drift situation all over again. That was the plight of the Switch era. And then this is kind of probably the most interesting part of the whole trailer, actually, because there was kind of a suggestion before the trailer arrived that there was an optical sensor somewhere on the kind of bottom rail of the controller here, where they kind of pink LED indicator light is. It looks pink, not red, right? Kind of a weird salmony pink. Anyway, so there's an optical sensor underneath, is the kind of thinking, at least. Obviously nothing's confirmed at this point. But then we get into this kind of really unique shot where we see essentially like the Joy-Con gliding along a surface, which looks like a table. And they've even got the Joy-Con straps in, which makes it look like a mouse's tail. So there's a nice nod there. It's kind of obvious, really. But, I mean, look at their tails kind of swinging around as they glide past, you know. I don't know what that button is on the top of the kind of attachment that we're seeing here as well. It's probably just a way to detach it from itself. But yeah, I can imagine like holding it like, you know, like that and making it work. So it's just really useful for things. I mean, obviously everyone's made the kind of obvious Mario Paint comparison here in terms of how this could be used. But there's other things like, you know, like Civilization 6 and stuff is on the Switch. So having those games on the console where you can just set it up anywhere and just start, like if like you're in a coffee shop and you want to play some Civilization or some other sort of sim game or some sort of clicker or anything that would be better with like a mouse input. I can, you know, the fact that City Skyline, a game I love, but I've never wanted to really play seriously on console. I played mostly on PC. Could work here with that kind of fine-grained mouse input. So it's actually really, really exciting if this feature is legit. I mean, obviously it's not going to beat out PC gaming, but to have it as an option in your kind of wheelhouse of ways to play, I think is just really, really neat. So yeah, let's crack on. Yeah, we saw it kind of fly out of that container there, didn't we? So it comes off being kind of mouse mode. Yeah. See, just kind of comes out of that container. Oh, what have I done? Press the wrong button. Yeah, that. And we see it kind of come back to the console. And here's where the kind of whole magnet gimmick comes into play. It's not gimmick, it's just a feature. I don't want to call it gimmick. I think you can't speak about Nintendo without using the word gimmick just naturally. It just kind of spills out of you. So instead of it having a rail that it slides onto, this time there's like a groove inside the console that it clearly just kind of docks into, essentially. So yeah, the switch kind of click is now more of a clap, and we get two of them for the two controllers. And this is the funny bit, because obviously there was a lot of conversation around the Wii U being this really, really kind of confusing prospect for people, and the name is terrible and all that. So to avoid any confusion whatsoever, here's what Nintendo does. I mean, you're not kind of mistaking that, are you? You know what that is. 2. It's a sequel, damn it. It's not the same thing. It's a follow-up. Yeah, I don't think they could have made that any more clear for people. The fact that some people are even questioning, oh, this could be confusing. No, it couldn't. It's worked for the PlayStation for the past 25 years. It's worked for the iPhone for the past 15 years. You know, it's going to be fine. 2 works. And there you go. There's a logo. It's very boring. But hey, it works. It's a very functional thing. And that's, again, one of the points that people have been kind of making about this whole kind of trailer, is that it feels kind of, in some ways, uncharacteristically Nintendo, because, you know, for the past 20 years, they've had this kind of blue ocean strategy where they've been just trying crazy stuff, you know, motion controls, DS touchpad stuff, gamepad waggle things, you know, holding a camera up and doing this as you're playing, and then this kind of novel concept that they kind of landed on with the Switch. But, you know, it works, and they've established this form factor. And also, if you just look at what like Xbox and PlayStation are doing, like, I mean, they're not there yet, but, you know, Nintendo have had this kind of their own lane in a way with this thing. And admittedly, things like the Steam Deck and all these other PC players are kind of getting in on this space, and SteamOS in itself is kind of muscling in on it. But, you know, I don't think it's a bad move for them to kind of go on and have another crack at kind of doing more of the same. The Legend of Curly's Gold. I don't understand that reference, I'm afraid. So yeah, let's crack on with the video. So this is kind of where it gets to like a sizzle reel kind of section. Yeah. And I will say, I think that the console itself looks nice. I mean, it just seems to be like a refined Switch. Like every kind of pain point you might have had with the original Switch, then we're going to take that and address it and sort it out for you. So I like it. I think the only thing that I will say about this model, and I think we kind of expect it to be an LCD rather than an OLED, is that the bezels look a bit beefy still on this device, especially on the kind of left and right margins, not so much the top and bottom, but yeah, it's still got some kind of meaty bezels on it, hasn't it? And I guess the kind of key takeaway from this kind of sizzle reel of the hardware now is we're getting a look at Mario Kart 10, I guess. And yes, it's 10 or X if you want to be cool like Elon Musk. Because Mario Kart Tour, that's Mario Kart 9, guys. Whether you like it or not. So yeah, this and you know it just looks good. Also, you know what's crazy? The last Mario Kart game on console, at least Mario Kart Tour is the exception. Obviously, originally came out in 2014, so it's been like 11 years. It's insane. And like, just think, in 11 years previously, we would have got like the Super Nintendo version, the N64 version, the Game Boy version, the DS version, probably as well, in like an 11-year span from what, like 1992 to maybe like 2005. So, okay, a little bit longer, but yeah, 12, 13 years, we got like 4 entries or whatever. And now it's been 10 years and we've had one. And yeah, okay, it got a port and it got a lot of extra content. They did a really good job supporting it, to be fair. But yeah, Mario Kart 8 originally came out on the Wii U in 2000 and what was it, like 14. Um, so yeah, it's been a long time coming for a new Mario Kart mainline entry, and this one, you know, plenty of people have spoken about it already, but this one here, like, there's some interesting things here. Like the character designs have been kind of reworked in some ways, especially Donkey Kong, which I'm sure you've seen. But there's lots of speculation around like, is this like a really open world kind of track? Because like there's a lot of different pathways and things. Like the track itself looks huge. This is the first look at it kind of docking as well, which is interesting. And another little tidbit that I thought might be interesting is, why are they showing the top of the screen like that? You know, I mean, my Switch dock sits behind my TV, so I don't actually see it. But the fact that they're showing like a slither, like 1/8 the top of the screen, I think is actually quite telling. Like, is there a reason they're doing that? Like, is it going to be able to show, excuse me, is it going to be able to show like notifications when it's like idle or something? Like, they could use the screen in some novel ways there when it's off. I even saw some suggestions that that strip, when docked, could act as like a Wii U sensor bar. I don't get how that would work, but like it emits light and like your remote could pick it up, but that doesn't make any sense, because from what I can gather, either there's no IR sensor on these controllers, which there was on the original Switch. I mean, we don't actually know that for sure, but when we get to look at the controllers, I don't think there was one there. I don't know. And that's the new Joy-Con grip, which again magnetically snaps into place. And there's our first look at kind of Donkey Kong. I mean, my face is kind of in the way a little bit there, isn't it? But you can see him just there in the corner. I don't know if it's just me, but does Toad's head look flatter and wider to you in this shot? I don't know. You can't even see him because my face is in the way. There he is. He's coming into shot now. And look how massive that track is. Look how wide it is. And it will need to be wide because apparently there's 24 races in this thing. So there we go. 2025. Vague. Real vague. I think many people, myself kind of included, expected this thing to kind of be a January reveal, like full-blown reveal, and like a March, April launch. April, more likely. But obviously now we know that's not the case because we've had a teaser in January, and we're going to get the full kind of Nintendo Direct in early April. Although I will admit, when this date popped up on the end of this trailer, I did thought it said like the 2nd of, like the 5th of February or something like that. I can't remember what it was. 4th of February, sorry. But yeah, this we also got confirmation of sorts that the Switch 2 is fully backwards compatible with both physical and download games, with the exception of a few titles. And I'm thinking things like Labo, Game Maker Garage, anything that use kind of like, maybe like Ring Fit Adventure has some issues as well because that used the IR sensor for like taking your heart rate. 1-2 Switch, oh no, what a shame, that won't work. Possibly. So I think there's a few select titles there that won't work because, from what I can gather, they have stripped out some features just because I guess people didn't use them enough. But yeah, um, again, all unconfirmed at this point, but I think it's fun to kind of hypothesize on what that might be, isn't it? So yeah, that's kind of it in terms of the trailer. But the only thing it kind of ends with now is just giving us some time to read that, I think. And then yeah, there's that date, and I read that as the 4th of February because that's how you read dates. Sorry, America. Yeah, so I read that as 4th of February and got very, very excited. I was like, oh my God, it's really, really soon. That's really, really cool. It's like 2 weeks away and we're going to find out all about this thing. But no, 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 we've got to wait like 75 days or whatever it is until the 2nd of, the 2nd of April, which feels like a million years away now. But in actuality, it's actually very similar to kind of the original Switch reveal in terms of like they showed it off in like that 3-minute trailer in like late October and then kind of went dark until mid-January, I think it was, for that reveal at the big site in Tokyo, which they did. So a similar sort of playbook in terms of the time frame. Obviously, when these things are happening is quite different. The fact that they've done this now and the next direct comes after like the end of their kind of business year, so it'll be the beginning of their new kind of financial year when they reveal this thing. And then I'm assuming that the actual product will show up June, is my kind of sense, So January reveal, April details, and then May, June. 2 months after that kind of full direct is when it will come out, I think, just in time for the summer holidays, is my kind of feeling right now. And do they launch with Mario Kart? Because that's the only kind of thing they've shown so far. So is that a launch title? That would be quite an exciting launch title, and one to make people upgrade maybe, because that game has sold bananas in terms of 8 Deluxe on the Switch. I think there's over like 50 million copies sold and something, which is an insane attach rate for a game like that. So maybe they open with that. There's no like 3D Mario at launch. Maybe that's more of the holiday game, is my thinking, and they launch with Mario Kart 10 or whatever you want to call it. That's my kind of hunch, and in June, just before the summer holidays. That's my kind of feeling towards it anyway. So yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna kind of skip around again and see like if anything jumps out. I think the way they revealed it is kind of cute with the whole here's a Switch transforming into the Switch 2. I thought that was kind of a cool, novel way to do it. But this is kind of a sterile trailer overall. It feels a bit kind of, I don't know. There's not much warmth to it. It's very I do like the way this transforms though. Yeah, it's a fairly safe upgrade for Nintendo, but like I said in the newsletter that I just sent out, I think it kind of fits the moment for where they're at and what the industry is kind of feeling like in terms of more of the same and carrying on building what they've got in terms of like the NSO and like their rich library of titles and just offering kind of, I don't know, they're broadening things out, aren't they? So I like it. I'm excited for it. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it's one of those things. So yeah, that was all kind of my newsletter for this week. I can't look at my own cheesy picture for much longer. Sorry. Um, yeah, I mean, in terms of what people would like to see as a launch title, I think Mario Kart would be a solid pick. Hi, Robert. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. In terms of like the response, I mentioned at the top of the video that there's a few kind of links in this week's issue talking about like it being exactly what we expected, uh, and how is this the end of innovative Nintendo? But then there's other takes here like give it a rest. Nintendo doesn't need a new gimmick to surprise and delight, and I think that's broadly true because a lot of the story here isn't the hardware, because we knew so much about this going in that we knew to expect it to be a fairly kind of iterative upgrade from what came before it. The story really is all in the software, isn't it? And it always has been. I mean, the reason you buy Nintendo hardware is to play Nintendo software, you know? That's always been the case, and that's going to be the same here. So I'm just really looking forward to seeing what software we get to see in the Switch 2 Direct, which is in early April, as we've already kind of mentioned. So yeah, there's kind of been a mixed opinion, I think it's fair to say, and I think that's fine. There's another one here. Look, the Switch 2 reveal used the iPhone playbook. Let's hope the hardware doesn't. And I think that's just kind of picking up on the fact that the reveal trailer itself that we've just kind of gone through here was typically, you know, fairly sterile and kind of tech broy. I don't know. And yeah, like you said, Rand, there's still a lot of details that we don't know about this machine, and they still have that opportunity to kind of add that typical Nintendo delight. Yeah, there's a button on the right Joy-Con here underneath the home button, which is a bit of a mystery button. A lot of the earlier leaks had suggested that it had a letter C on it, but obviously in this leak, in this, sorry, I misspoke. In this video from Nintendo, yeah, like you just said, the C button, the label is no longer there, so we don't know what that's going to do. And again, there's the USB-C port on the top as well. We don't know how Nintendo might use that. They might use that in some novel ways. I just think it opens up a lot of opportunities. Um, so yeah, the kind of mixed opinions I think are fine on based on this initial reveal, but I also kind of say, well, don't bet against Nintendo because they can always surprise you. That's kind of my kind of overall kind of feeling on this. This article here from Jackson Tapp at Nintendo Wire says that how this branding kind of avoids the kind of nightmare that they had with the Wii U branding. I think which is right. There's kind of a lot of excitement around the mouse feature, which I think is really novel. And again, they haven't confirmed it in writing at least, but that video did kind of hint at that being a thing, and you know that is another one of those kind of things where Nintendo might surprise us, in terms of how it's used. So we shall see. What's been like your take on it, like in terms of how you feel about this kind of reveal? Do you think it's going to hit the mark, or is it not? Is it kind of disappointed you, or what? I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, do you feel it's like what you wanted out of a Switch follow up, or is it more like Do you think they'll use the mouse function in Metroid Prime 4? Um, that would be really cool. Especially because with the Metroid Prime games that were on the Wii and they use that kind of motion sensing function. I could see them adding it as a mode for sure because I think Nintendo have always been quite good at like offering up those kind of alternative choices of playstyle, like with Splatoon and being able to aim with the gyro and stuff. So they're obviously keen to explore those sort of alternative control schemes. So I could see them doing the same for Metroid Prime 4 for sure. And that game is definitely going to be one of the ones that's like a cross-gen title that will like launch on the Switch and the Switch 2, I think. Because again, Nintendo generally are pretty good about like if they announce a game and then by the time it actually comes out to releasing, there's a console out. They're generally pretty good at kind of keeping their word in terms of like making it available for the old console and the new one. Obviously, like Twilight Princess being the first example of that on the GameCube and Wii, and then obviously Breath of the Wild on Wii U and Switch. So I think the same will happen here. Um, yes, someone ran in the chat just mentioned the patent for a scroll wheel on a Nintendo controller, and that's something that I believe Masahiro Sakurai mentioned wanting during the GameCube era. Actually, he's talking about wanting to put a scroll wheel in the kind of right corner or whatever. And it would have been neat actually to add that sort of mouse functionality. Just to see them exploring it here in obviously not the same way, but I think this is the thing. No idea or thought kind of gets unused or left on the table forever at Nintendo. They always kind of revisit these things and come back to them. So there is that kind of element to it. Um, so Jordan here, comparing the Switch and Switch 2 reveals, kind of goes through what's changed. I did the same on this channel in the past week and kind of went through the old Switch reveal. And then the rest of the newsletter kind of talks about what else is in Nintendo's year ahead. Thoughts on Donkey Kong Country Returns. I'm currently playing through that, and I've not played it before, so it's a delight in that regard. And yeah, there's just loads of good stuff in this week's issue because obviously there's lots of excitement around the Switch and where Nintendo are going now. Lots of games out next week as well. There's like 40. Some of them look pretty decent. There's stars there on the ones that are next to them. And again, there's some guesstimation work here on how much the Switch 2 is going to cost. I've always kind of thought in my head like $400. What did this actually say? I can't even remember. Okay, yeah, we've got like a guessing emoji. Helpful. But yeah, in terms of like what the Switch would cost today, apparently, well, yeah, $400. It was 299, but inflation's going to inflate. um, so did they actually land on anything? I can't remember what was in here now. Yeah. Oh, there's a poll. Okay, can we see the results or not? I think 499. Nah, 399. Let's go with that. Oh, we can't see. Okay, but yeah, I voted. 399 feels good, right? Also, thanks for subscribing. Hope you enjoyed the newsletter. Um, yeah, so I think $300-400 is kind of in my head where I think it would work. So yeah. In terms of other Switch 2 stuff, there's a suggestion here that a Metaphor or a Fantasia might be a launch title, and I think one of the things that we kind of gain with Nintendo actually now having announced that this thing is real. I mean, we've had this kind of awkward moment, haven't we, over the past kind of 6 to 8 months of certain publishers being like, "Oh yeah, we've got new games coming out, and it's coming out for this mysterious new console." They've kind of not been allowed to say that it's coming to the Switch 2, but now I guess with Nintendo making it official, publishers outside of Nintendo can actually start announcing Switch 2 games. We know only of like a handful so far. I mean, obviously Mario Kart X or whatever you want to call it, Mario Kart 10, 9 is one of them. And I think Metroid Prime 4, as we mentioned in the chat, is another kind of locked in option from my perspective at least. I think that has to be a cross gen title. But yeah, now between now and April, I assume we will get a flurry or a handful at least of like third party games announcing, yeah, Switch 2, and then being able to say Switch 2 as well, which is nice for them. So Nintendo doing this early, I guess, is pretty cool. But yeah, I think that's probably about it from me. I mean, we've gone through the video, looked at what's kind of on the slate. I mean, it's more of the same, but I think I'm okay with that. You know, I love the Switch. It's been like, for me, it's Nintendo's best console of all time. I think having an option where that kind of experience and that hybrid kind of format lives on is a good thing to me. I mean, I'm happy for more of the same. It's safe. It's relatively boring by Nintendo's terms, but I also think it's relatively fine. The Switch 2 has been the Switch, sorry, has been 8 years of good Nintendo gaming. So let the good times roll, I think. And in terms of like, there's a few things they need to fix, like eShop, please. But generally, you know, the Switch has been good. So more of the same. I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, I think that's probably all I've got to say. Other than in terms of like what I think is going to happen now is like, yeah, we've got the Direct in April. I think it might launch in June. I think Mario Kart likely is a launch title. There's never going to be any new Mario Party games ever again. Nah. Someone in chat's asking about Mario Party, and I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with that game. So, but I can imagine there'll be probably a new one within the first like 18 months, probably the following Christmas, right? Or who knows? But yeah, got Mario Party in the brain now. Thanks for infecting my brain with that. Mario Kart at launch, I think, and yeah, $400 feels about right, but I don't know with the cost of components and stuff. And obviously, the new president coming in America has spoken about doing like tech tariffs and stuff on like imported goods. So that might affect the price of these things as well, which again is why I think they haven't announced all the details yet because they don't want to say, yeah, it costs this much and then inflation and like politics gets in the way of that being a reality. So yeah, and like you just mentioned in the chat as well, one of the huge things is the fact that it's backwards compatible, especially the digital stuff, which I think was like a big fear for people, is that all of these kind of digital titles would like not be carried over, but they are. So huge win there, which obviously means like the architecture of the console is fairly similar. So after 8 years of experience as well, it's a bonus for like publishers and no, sorry, it's a bonus for like developers who, if they've got familiar with the kind of Switch architecture, and it's not too dissimilar, kind of moving across to the Switch 2 because it's just more of the same beefed up, then that's a good thing as well. How long this gets us in terms of like, you know, if you think about how long the Switch has been on the market now, I mean, where are we at? It's like, you know, it's going to be 2032, 2033 before we're even talking about the next console. And in terms of how long this machine can keep up, who knows? But I mean, we have to remember this. the original Switch is a 2015 Android chipset that Nintendo have milked for 8 years. So they've done all right, and the industry at large actually has done broadly okay in bringing like a lot of like third-party games over to the machine as well. So yeah, I just think it's going to be interesting now, kind of in the run up to April, what kind of titles get released announced for this, because obviously a lot of kind of Xbox One, PS4 era titles are probably going to get ported to this thing. So I imagine there's a lot of publishers now thinking, yes, we can get a lot of like reissues out and kind of people will revisit these games on this handheld. So that's exciting too. Yeah, I think I've probably gone on long enough now. I don't want to take too much of your Sunday evening up, wherever you are. So yeah, Switch 2 looks pretty exciting. I'm excited for it. I'm gonna get my pre-order in as soon as I can, obviously, and I've I've gonna go for June actually, likely. On the chat, someone was just asking if it's going to be released in July. I do think they'll try and hit it before the summer holidays, like globally. And 2 months after the kind of direct in April feels like a good time frame for kind of keeping it fresh in people's minds, you know? So April, you show them all the details. June, it's out on the shop. So yeah, I'm going to wrap up there. If you're not a subscriber, head over to switchweekly.com and you can find my weekly email newsletter, which kind of goes, I can't believe I took that picture, which goes through all the kind of week in Nintendo and also gives you a list of all of the upcoming games that are coming out onto the eShop. Over 8,000 people are subscribed, so it must be half decent. So yeah, I've got my Switch 2 pre-order in the minute it's available to do so. I'm locked in for this thing. I'm ready for more of the same. I'm going to be here covering it on the newsletter for the next 8 years by the looks of things, and then I'll be in my mid-40s by that point. Dread. Anyway, I've also kind of signed up for those tickets to see if I can go play it in London in April. So that should be cool too. So yeah, thanks so much for watching and chatting and all of that good stuff. It would mean a lot if you could hit like on this video and subscribe if you're not already, because I'm going to try and do more of this sort of stuff. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Now I'm going to go press some buttons and